CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Live from London, this is The World Today.
Hello, I'm Jamie Owen. Welcome to the programme. Our top stories. 2 people have died and the search for survivors continues in China after Typhoon Doksuri and Tropical Storm Kanun caused mudslides and flooding. Our other headlines, the death toll from wildfires on the Hawaiian island of Maui rises to 80. Thousands of people have now been left homeless. Moscow says it intercepted Ukrainian rockets and 20 drones over this bridge connecting the Crimean Peninsula with Russia. And West African countries suspend a key meeting on the crisis in Niger, days after ordering a standby force in their bid to restore civilian rule. At least 2 people have died and more than a dozen are missing after torrential rain caused mudslides and flooding in China's city of Xi'an. Hundreds of rescuers are now joining a special task force deployed to help search efforts. China is still grappling with the aftermath of Typhoon Doksuri and Tropical Storm Kanun, which have unleashed torrential rain for more than a week. Well, Storm Kanun weakened into a tropical depression as it made landfall in northeastern Liaoning province. Our correspondent Zhang Siran reports now from Dandong.
Local weather officials tell me that Dandong is likely to experience moderate rain as well as gradually weakening winds over the next few days. Over 2,000 fishing boats have been recalled to the harbor for shelter. And now all the offshore fishing operations and passenger transport have been suspended. And tourist sites along the river as well as sightseeing boats have been temporarily closed to ensure public safety. The aftermath from Doksuri as well as the tropical storm and now the tropical depression Kanun is also set to cause more heavy rains in Jilin and Heilongjiang provinces. On Thursday, Heilongjiang has issued 2 red alerts for rainstorms, which is the highest level in China's warning system. And definitely the attention is also on the damaged crops across the region. In Wuchang city of Heilongjiang province, where we've just left, efforts are being made there to quickly drain water from the rice fields. The soaked rice plants are just prone to pest and disease infestations, and thus the timely application of fertilizer and pesticides is believed by many experts as one of the best ways to ensure rice yields later on. And also in Fuyu city of Jilin province, where we've also visited, psychological counselings there are also available to the relocated residents.
The death toll from wildfires on the Hawaiian island of Maui has now risen to at least 80 in what's become the deadliest natural disaster in the U.S. state's history. A review has been launched into the response as questions mount over whether officials warned people quickly enough. Our correspondent Nitza Soledad Perez reports.
Authorities have confirmed at least 80 wildfire fatalities here in Hawaii, and the Maui County mayor warns that toll could keep rising. 6 fires continue to burn here in Maui and the Big Island, though authorities now are saying that 80% of the fire in Lahaina has been contained. Many of the town's historic landmarks are lost. Hawaii Governor Josh Green said the fires would likely be the largest natural disaster in the state's history. It appears like a bomb went off, he said. And residents are questioning what happened with the alarm system. Warning sirens were not activated during Maui's deadly wildfires, and this is according to the Hawaii Emergency Services Administration. They admitted to this on Friday. Maui County officials said residents and tourists are allowed to return to some areas of West Maui, but a curfew will be enforced from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Now, parts of West Maui continue right now without power and water. A restricted zone in Lahaina and other parts of West Maui devastated by the blaze will remain closed to the public while crews continue to search for fire victims. Nitza Soledad Perez, CGTN, Maui.
At least 6 people have died after a boat carrying migrants sank in the English Channel. British and French Coast Guards say they rescued around 50 people from the overcrowded vessel. A number of people were brought off a lifeboat on stretchers in the port of Dover, but the extent of their injuries remains unclear. More than 100,000 migrants have crossed the channel in small boats since 2018. Dozens of migrants have been rescued from a crowded wooden boat in the Mediterranean. A charity ship will now take them to the Italian port of Naples. Another boat carrying 59 rescued migrants has already docked in Sicily. Italy has seen almost 95,000 migrants' arrivals by sea so far this year, more than double the same period last year. Protesters have taken to the streets of South Korea's capital to demonstrate against Japan's plan to release treated radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the ocean. This comes after the International Atomic Energy Agency approved the plan last month, despite environmental concerns from neighbouring countries. Japanese media are reporting the water could be discharged in a matter of weeks. Ukraine says 2 people have died and a dozen others injured after Russian shelling struck eastern and southern parts of the country. An elderly woman was killed in Kharkiv, and a separate attack in Zaporizhzhia killed a Ukrainian police officer. Both areas are close to the front line, and Kyiv's forces say there's been an increase in Russian attacks in recent weeks. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry says it has intercepted Ukrainian rockets and downed several drones near the Crimea bridge in a flurry of attacks along the peninsula. Kyiv almost never publicly claims responsibility for such attacks, but has said destroying Russia's military infrastructure is crucial for its counter-offensive. Our correspondent Dasha Chernyshova is in Moscow.
Well, that's right. Russia's Ministry of Defense accused Ukraine of trying to carry out an act of terrorism against the Crimean bridge across the Kerch Strait, this time with S-200 rockets. We understand that those rockets were detected in a good, timely manner and have been destroyed. No casualties or damages have been reported. But at the same time, this is yet another attack against the Crimean bridge. We have heard also the governor of the Crimea, Aksyonov, saying that another rocket was downed. Shortly afterwards, the traffic on the Crimean bridge has been halted, and the Russian Federation has called this as an act of terrorism committed by the Ukrainian side. According to Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova, that was an act of terrorism that put in danger the lives of the civilians. The ministry has also said that these acts of terrorism will not go unanswered, so the retaliation has been promised by the Russian side. But also, just keep in mind that this is not the first time the Crimean bridge is being the target of the Ukrainian attacks, and Moscow has long been saying that the Crimean bridge has been used for the civilian purposes. But most recently, we have seen the intensification of the attacks against the Crimean Peninsula as well as other Russian cities, including the capital, Moscow. On Friday, Russia's Ministry of Defense says it has jammed yet another drone that was flying towards the Russian capital. The debris of the drone that was jammed have fallen down on the Karamashevsky embankment, that is in the northwestern part of the Russian capital. Moscow says this is all the acts of desperation as Ukraine is losing ground on the front line.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has arrived in Cambodia, where he's been formally welcomed by the Deputy Prime Minister Ho Nam Hong. The visit is the last stop of Wang Yi's 3-country tour of Southeast Asia. He's also visited Malaysia and Singapore. Cambodia is one of the poorest countries in Southeast Asia. China is investing billions of dollars to try to help create jobs and boost growth. CGTN's correspondent Martin Lowe reports.
Stretching into the distance, this is Cambodia's first ever motorway, built with Chinese investment, connecting the capital Phnom Penh with the seaport of Sihanoukville, 187 kilometers to the southwest. The motorway was constructed by the China Road and Bridge Corporation at a cost of $2 billion. Capital outlay will be recovered from driver tolls. It's the latest example of decades of investment by China in Cambodian infrastructure, running into billions of dollars in aid and low-interest loans. Major projects also include a new rail system, electricity generating schemes, bridges, sea and airports.
Chinese investment and Chinese aid is very important to the Kingdom of Cambodia, particularly to fulfill the need of the development of the country. As we have seen in the past 30 years, then the international assistance and private investment start to come in to support the domestic development needs. And when Chinese aid and investment comes, it has fulfilled all of those, in the bucket list for the development of the country.
The new road has cut the journey time from Phnom Penh to Sihanoukville, a popular tourist destination, from 5 hours to just 2. It's attracting around 11,500 vehicles a day, including private cars and commercial traffic. This expressway signifies Chinese confidence in Cambodia's future. Some are claiming there isn't the traffic volume to justify the expense. But those who back the project say better infrastructure is a driver of economic growth. Cambodia is to go ahead with a second Chinese-built motorway starting here, linking the capital with the Vietnam border. Again being built by China Road and Bridge, it will cover 135 kilometers and cost $1.3 billion. China says it wants to push the China-Cambodian partnership to a new level. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen thanked China, saying the highways will play a crucial role in boosting growth and tourism. And they are firmly cementing China's position as Cambodia's biggest overseas investor. Martin Lowe, CGTN, Phnom Penh.
You're watching CGTN. Still ahead, a key regional meeting on Niger postponed. West African leaders ponder their next steps to try to restore the country's deposed president.
Ever wondered what's the difference between a bear and a bull market? Where are the cash cows? And who are the lame ducks? And what exactly are black swans, grey rhinos, and unicorn companies? Make sense of it all with global business, only on CGTN.
There's a new agenda for a new world, accelerating change in almost every part of our lives. It's shifting the norms of how we work, travel, and connect. How we think, interact, and develop. It's a new reality, a new agenda with me, Juliet Mann.
Events have consequences. Words create impact.
One more offensive in a long line of battles that's been ongoing for more...
Just got to be careful here with some gunshots. Excuse us.
The world today matters for your world tomorrow.
The number of casualties is growing quickly.
Why, this is one of the hardest hit towns in the region.
The world today, every day on CGTN.
Hello, welcome back. A reminder of our top stories. 2 people have died and the search for survivors continues in China after Typhoon Doksuri and Tropical Storm Kanun caused mudslides and flooding. Our other headlines: the death toll from wildfires on the Hawaiian island of Maui rises to 80. Thousands of people have now been left homeless. And Moscow says it intercepted Ukrainian rockets and 20 drones over this bridge connecting the Crimean Peninsula with Russia. A planned meeting by West African leaders to discuss the crisis in Niger has been postponed. This comes after the regional bloc, ECOWAS, ordered a standby military force be ready to restore civilian rule. Large crowds of supporters of last month's coup have been protesting in the capital, Niamey. Niger's military leader remained defiant despite mounting international criticism. Well, our correspondent Deji Badamosi is in Lagos, in neighbouring Nigeria.
No reason was given for the postponement of the meeting. What we know is that the meeting has been postponed indefinitely. It was supposed to take place today. but no reason was actually given for the postponement. It could be for several reasons. We do not know. There are suggestions that talks might be going on behind the scene, and there are also suggestions that the meeting was postponed so that the various defense chiefs could put their house together in terms of how to activate this force. So that force has not been set up. There are still issues of logistics to be sorted out, issues of financing and all of that. So we just wait to see what happens next. But the junta in Niger has actually not responded. There's been no word at all, even any reaction from the junta over that summit by the heads of state of ECOWAS that took place in Nigeria on Thursday. So there's been no reaction. What we've rather seen is a demonstration in Niamey, where thousands of supporters of the military junta came out to show their support in solidarity now with the junta and to protest against any form of intervention now from ECOWAS.
Well, there are fears that instability in Niger could push the wider region into a deeper humanitarian crisis. Laura Esposito is country director for Niger at the Norwegian Refugee Council.
The situation in Niger is very volatile and unpredictable. The country was already going through a deep crisis before the latest events. Just imagine more than 4 million people are in need of humanitarian assistance, and there are more than 600,000 people being displaced. This includes refugees from neighboring countries fleeing conflict and internally displaced people. So the situation was already very concerning, and the effect of the recent sanctions is already felt on the ground. For example, we already see inflation, increasing prices of basic goods, and also scarcity of basic goods in the market. And we are afraid that further instability will further destabilize the living conditions of the people most in need.
Laura, what are the main challenges that humanitarian groups working on the ground are facing at the moment?
Well, in the last few weeks, we faced several additional challenges, I would say. For example, financial flows to the countries are being difficult. It's hard to have money in our bank account from our head office that is needed for our humanitarian life-saving programs. There is not so much liquidity in the country. Cash is really scarce. Goods are becoming scarcer also because of the border closures, especially with Nigeria, which is the main exporter of goods to Niger. Also, electricity is being cut. Right now, we see at least 18 hours a day without electricity for the capital city, and it's becoming really hard to reach people in remote locations. For example, not just because it's a rainy season, but the airspace being closed doesn't really help humanitarians to reach field locations and provide humanitarian assistance.
I want to ask you about the effect that sanctions are having and might continue to have, and also what the suspension of development aid might have on the country.
Yes, sanctions, as I said, the effect of sanctions is already clear, is already felt in the country. However, we cannot predict the long-term effects. We definitely can say that it will further undermine the socioeconomic situations of the population that is already mostly living below the poverty line. And the cut of development aid, we know that the budget of Niger heavily relies on development aid and loans. So this being cut will put more people in need, and this will also destabilize people living conditions, and it will make them resort to negative coping mechanisms.
And when you hear about the threat of possible military intervention, presumably you're concerned that this already fragile situation might deteriorate further.
Yes, many scenarios are shared, and we definitely hope that the stakeholders can reach a resolution, a peaceful resolution using mediation, diplomacy, and that the worst doesn't happen. Of course, we call on all the parties to abide to international humanitarian law and ensure that humanitarian assistance can be provided to the most in need according to the humanitarian principles.
England have qualified for the Women's World Cup semi-finals for the third straight time after sealing their victory against Colombia in a 2-1 showdown. Colombia opened the scoring in the first half, but the Lionesses fought back to break even. And it was Alessia Russo's second half goal that saw them through to the next round. They face co-hosts Australia in Sydney on Wednesday. Well, this year's World Cup has been full of twists and turns and broken records across the board, from ticket sales to broadcasting figures. A French advertisement by the sponsors of the country's women's team has gone viral. I asked Simon Chadwick, Professor of Sport and Geopolitical Economy at Schema Business School in France, about the role brands play when it comes to bringing the sport into the mainstream.
They're very important because it brings legitimacy. It certainly brings parity, and part of the campaign that you referred to there, the Orange telephone company advertisement campaign, essentially put male and female football together on an equal footing. But of course, what it also does is it brings visibility and more importantly, perhaps money. Certainly the influx of broadcasting and sponsorship monies we've seen into women's football over the last 5 years in particular has really enabled the game to be marketed more effectively, but obviously investments to take place into things like grassroots football, for instance. So the role of commercial organisations and brands is absolutely pivotal in some of the changes that we're seeing right now in women's football.
I think by any measure this is the biggest Women's World Cup ever. I mean, what do you think is the reason behind this fast global growth in the game?
I guess more than anything, we're living in the 21st century, and people now realise across the world in many, many different countries that men and women are equal, and they deserve to be equal, they're entitled to be equal. And so there's been a fundamental shift in perceptions, attitudes, behaviours, which has underpinned, I think, what is now happening. But I think something has also happened too in terms of the economic realisation that there is money to be made. It sounds very cynical, but companies and brands are going to be looking at it in this way. 50% of the world's population is female. 50% of the world's population is female. But these women, they have jobs, they have money, they spend, and so there are commercial opportunities there. There are opportunities for sponsors to sell things to women as well. And I think brands take the view that they would rather be part of the change and make a positive contribution to it, rather than somehow being seen to be cynically taking advantage of it. So I think there are a number of different things. I think the other thing as well that's really, really important is, and this is something about the women's game itself, is women's football is not men's football. I think for a long time, women's football was being marketed on the same basis as you would market men's football. It's actually very different. And so one of the changes that we've seen is that women's football now is standing alone. It's seen as different, it's distinctive, it's unique, and that creates opportunities for commercial partners.
I just want to ask you about how brands quantify the success of their association. I mean, just because I watch this may not mean that I rush out and buy the product associated with the advertisers.
In marketing terms, the first thing is you begin to shape perceptions of how people see the women's game, and then you begin to shape their attitudes, and so they have a positive predisposition towards women's football and the products associated with it. And then, of course, the final element of the equation is behaviour. And I guess we're still in relatively early days when it comes to converting interest into actual kind of hard bottom line, certainly financial returns from the point of view of companies and brands. But clearly this takes a period of time, and even in the men's game there are some doubts about if you see a sponsor's name on a shirt, you immediately rush out and buy the product, and the answer to that is often no, you don't. But what does happen with names on shirts, or if brands are associated with particular players or particular teams, is it's mind. So that when you do find yourself, for example, in a supermarket and you think, I know that brand, I know that product, it's associated with women's football, I therefore prefer to buy that product. So, you know, it's a kind of unfolding situation, both in terms of the big picture, but also in terms of the individual psychology of consumers.
The practice of Tai Chi can be traced back thousands of years in China. It's a form of martial art that combines slow and fluid movements with deep breathing and meditation. Our correspondent, Sire Xue, visited a Tai Chi master in Henan province, widely recognized as the birthplace of the art.
Tai Chi is one of the oldest traditional martial art forms, which has been practiced in China for centuries. But unlike other martial arts, strength is found in softness, and power is harnessed through gentle movements. Every movement embodies a fundamental concept of Chinese philosophy, harmony. 44-year-old Chen Bing has been practicing Tai Chi for 4 decades. He's known as a 12th-generation inheritor of what's known as Chen-style Tai Chi, and a successor of national intangible cultural heritage in China.
Tai Chi is based on the principles of yin and yang, which are fundamental concepts in Chinese philosophy and culture. Yin and yang are two opposing forces that exist in the universe and everything within it, and maintaining balance between them is crucial. You can see this philosophy reflected in each move of Tai Chi.
Tai Chi has often been thought of as an activity for the elderly in China, but it's becoming more popular with young people who are seeking relief from the stresses of daily life. And parents are enrolling children in Tai Chi classes and competitive events. Chen Bing founded more than 100 Tai Chi schools worldwide to carry on the tradition.
Tai Chi can enhance physical strength and promote good health for individuals, making it a highly beneficial practice. As an inheritor of this martial art, I believe it is my lifelong responsibility to pass it on for the benefits of others.
Tai Chi has also joined international enthusiasts to China. In 2020, UNESCO recognized Chinese Tai Chi as a form of intangible cultural heritage. Chen Bing and his sister, another inheritor of Chen-style Tai Chi, have traveled extensively across the globe to share their knowledge and expertise on Tai Chi. He says they will continue promoting the martial art form. When practicing Tai Chi, it's essential to maintain a slower movement. For many, it can be a journey of self-discovery, where the body, mind, and spirit come together in a perfect harmony. Sire Xue, CGTN, Zhengzhou, Henan Province.
The headlines again. 2 people have died and the search for survivors continues in China after Typhoon Doksuri and Tropical Storm Kanun caused mudslides and flooding. Our other headlines, the death toll from wildfires on the Hawaiian island of Maui rises to 80. Thousands of people have now been left homeless. And Moscow says it intercepted Ukrainian rockets and 20 drones over this bridge connecting the Crimean Peninsula with Russia. And that is the world today. Thank you for watching. More news at the top of this hour. Coming up next, it's The Agenda with Juliet Mann. For now, from all of the team in London, it's goodbye.